Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to round two of all the tips and tricks and ideas and thoughts and beliefs that I have as I start my second year of teaching. Um, if you guys have any ideas of your own or something that you found that works as a teacher or just as a parent or anything, feel free to share any of those ideas. I'm a firm believer in never being complacent and always having room to improve and grow. And I think that you learn every day for your entire life, and you never know everything. So please feel free to share any ideas you guys have with me. That'd be awesome. The first thing I'm going to talk about today is an issue that hopefully a lot of teachers have, which deals with pencils. I learned pretty quickly about the first day I was started as a teacher that pencils are a big issue, and they seem to come and go quicker than anything. It's really frustrating when you're in the middle of class and you're in the flow of things, and then you realize one of the students doesn't have a pencil, and you sit there and say, "Where's your pencil? Why aren't you writing this down?" And they tell you they don't have one. And then your kind of response is, "Well, what are you going to do about that? Are you going to sit there halfway through class now and wait for somebody else to solve the issue for you, or are you going to take it upon yourself to find a pencil and get to work?" So I tried to come up with some sort of idea or technique to fix this issue, to resolve this issue, and it was hard at first. A few things I tried didn't work. One of them I found out from a fellow colleague, one of the teachers I teach with. He taped a pencil to his desk with a string, taped the string to the desk and tied the string to the pencil. And if the kid wanted to use a pencil that day, they didn't have one. They had to sit at his desk and write with that pencil that was taped to the desk. That way he didn't constantly lose pencils and have to find more pencils. Found out pretty quickly that did not work with 7th graders. They can pretty much destroy or break through anything, especially tape and string. It stands no chance to them. So that idea kind of went out the window pretty quick. Another idea I had with the string, again, is to tie the string in a fancy design, like some kind of special way around the pencil, so that I could distinctly point out, like, that's my pencil right there, and it better be on my desk at the end of class if you borrow it. It still didn't work. You get carried away working with another student on something, or getting busy with something else, and you realize that all those pencils that you spent all that time making fancy designs for are gone anyway. So that also wasn't a solution to the issue, and I kind of, at that point, just kind of gave in and spent all the time and money buying pencils constantly, and we're handing them out to students, and kind of like had a tear go down my face every time I watched a brand new pencil with a brand new eraser that I just bought, just handing it over knowing it wasn't going to return. It was going to find legs and run away somehow. Then this year started, actually a few days before school started. The same teacher that gave me that idea of the pencil and the string, he offered some golf pencils that he found in a desk of a classroom he was moving into. And it was a big box of golf pencils. And I said, yeah, I'll take them, because actually the reason was because I was just getting into golf, and I thought I'd have golf pencils for life. But they stayed in my classroom. They didn't make it out of the school, so I ended up just letting my students use those. And for those of you that don't know what a golf pencil looks like, here's an example of a golf pencil. And it turns out that these are actually a lot better to hand out to students because they're a lot smaller. They're about a quarter of the size of a normal pencil, maybe a little bigger. No eraser, and they're just like really cheap pencils that you don't really care to lose. And the students kind of complained, and it was an incentive for them to bring their own pencils, because if they had to deal with these, they didn't like that. And I kind of always used the phrase for them that I learned growing up, beggars can't be choosers. You got to deal with what you got, and these are the pencils that they were given, so and they didn't have any alternatives, so that's what they had to deal with. This really helped with the flow of class as well, because they knew where the pencils were located. You know, they had that box sitting on my desk, and they could go grab one real quick and get it and write with it. Now we still have the students that choose not to use them and choose for me to have to get on them, but then I can point at it and say, hey, you knew they were there the whole time. And a few days later, I also ran into this quote that says, an old man said, erasers are made for those who make mistakes. A youth replied, erasers are made for those who are willing to correct their mistakes. And I just thought this was a cool quote in general. I found it on Facebook, and I just saved it because I'm one of those people that believes in you learn from failure and you learn from your mistakes, and that's how you grow, and that's how you develop, and that's how you better yourself, by the failures that you encounter. And I didn't realize at the time that this was actually going to point out something else to me with these golf pencils. And a few days later I realized, hey, that kind of has a correlation to the people that come up, the students that come up and ask for an eraser when they're using these golf pencils, as opposed to the students that just accept the golf pencil and write with it and kind of just go with the flow. This kind of stuck with me because I realized those students that are asking for erasers, they're the ones that want to fix their mistakes, and they care, and they may have just had a day where they forgot a pencil or something. It's not a big deal, but it's awesome to see them come up and ask for an eraser, because that means they're willing to correct their mistakes and they're willing to learn from that failure. And I think that's very important. If they do, I just give them one of these small erasers that I have in my desk, and it's no big deal. You just give them one of those that fit on the end of a pencil, you know. For those that don't, that's kind of a life lesson that I teach them. I tell them, hey, you need an eraser too, you know. Like I'll wait and I'll find something that they wrote and say, hey, you knew this wasn't right because we went over it. Why didn't you change it? And they'll say, well, I didn't have an eraser. You gave me the pencil with no eraser. And then I tell them, well, you need to figure it out. You need to ask for an eraser too. You know, you need to learn from your mistakes, and you need to fix your mistakes. And that means that you don't just give up on those kids that don't fix their mistakes. You keep pushing them to learn from their mistakes. The example I always use at the beginning of the year is whenever you're little, if you touch your hand on a hot stove and you have no idea that hot stove's going to hurt, but when you touch your hand on it and it burns your hand, you learn pretty quickly that stove is hot and that you shouldn't touch it. And that's kind of a lapse in judgment, and that's a failure that you learn from, and you never do it again. Well, math and any subject, anything you do in life is kind of the same way. You learn from your mistakes, and you get better because of it. I think that's enough on pencils. I think teachers are about the only people in the world that can talk about pencils for 8 minutes almost. So we're going to move on to another topic. This one's kind of something that's a little bit controversial. But everyone loves controversy, so either way, whether you agree or disagree with me, I think it's interesting to talk about at least. I found this on Twitter the other day with one of the teacher accounts I follow, and they got really upset that a teacher put this bulletin board in their room. And it's just meet the person responsible for your choices, grades, success, words, and actions. And a lot of people were getting upset about it, and I couldn't figure out why at first. And then it turned out it was because, well, they think that the teacher was trying to take the responsibility off themselves and put all the students' problems and everything onto the students. And I think that's completely wrong. I don't think that in any way, shape, or form that is what the teacher was trying to make the point of. I tell my students the same things. You know, you got to be accountable for your actions. You know, you're the one that's in control. A motivational speaker I listen to a lot, Brian Kite, he has this formula he's created, and it's E plus R equals O. An event plus a response equals an outcome. And whether your response is positive or negative, you're still going to have some kind of outcome from that response. And every event has a response by you, and it can be good or bad, but you're going to have an outcome either way. And I've told a few of my classes that that's probably the most important equation they'll learn in math class this year. E plus R equals O. I think that's great. And I think this teacher is trying to teach those same life lessons here. You know, I think the one that really rubbed them the wrong way was the grades and the success. They think that some of these students are set up for more challenges than others, and it puts it on them and tells them that it's your fault that these challenges are occurring. Well, I don't think that that's what that teacher was trying to get at all. Okay, so some of these, I'll read some of the responses here. So this girl right here, she said, I'm not a fan of anything that takes adult relationships and accountability out of student success. If they alone are responsible for their growth, why even have school? Well, I think that school is made, one of the big things in school is exactly what this teacher was trying to do, teach life lessons. Yeah, maybe you won't always use Pythagorean theorem or the quadratic formula in your life, There are a lot of things you will use, but there's a lot of things that you won't. And one of the big things that I always found in school that I use the most is the life lessons that I learned along the way in those encounters. And I think it's a teacher's responsibility to teach those life lessons. You know, if you're a math teacher only teaching math, or an English teacher only teaching English, or a history teacher only teaching history, then you're failing your students, because you need to teach them more than that. They go to school to learn those life lessons that they might not learn otherwise. The teachers that I remember growing up and that were most impactful in my life were those teachers that taught me those life lessons, something bigger than math or English or history. You know, it's great to teach those kids those lessons and those subjects, but that's not the only thing you have to teach them. You know, you can teach them a lot more than that, and I'm big on trying to teach them life lessons. And sometimes they get tired of me giving all these speeches and spiels on life lessons, but I think it's very important, and I think that's exactly what this teacher was trying to do. Another thing somebody said was something about it reminds me of the grit craze and all that's not right with that. Well, the grit craze it's not a craze, okay? It's Angela Duckworth came up with this, or really expressed this in a much larger way than people thought about it before. And she studied a lot of successful people. And what do all those successful people have in common? Well, they all have a tremendous amount of grit compared to other people. They push through, they persevere through those hard times, and they keep going, and they keep trying, and they keep trying to get better. You know, they use those erasers. You know, they fix their mistakes. They fail, and they learn from them. They have grit. And I think that that's not a craze. That's just another life lesson to teach every student how to be successful. You know, I think some of these teachers, or not teachers, but people that are commenting on this are trying to set up some excuse for these kids that might not have everything that that other students have. I don't think an excuse for them is a good way to teach them these things or set them up for success. You know, they need to know that no matter what you come from, you still are able to succeed. I think that's very important for them to know, and I think giving them an out or an excuse is the wrong way to look at this. You know, and we're a very trauma-informed school. We have a high rate of low income and everything, and, you know, I love each and every one of those kids, and I'm not going to sit there and tell them, well, because you come from this place or this family or this area, that you can't do anything. That's crazy. I don't think you should give them that excuse and tell them, well, it's okay because of the situation you were put in. And I'm not saying it's their fault either. You know, it's just the way it is. It's the way that the chips fell, you know. But giving them that excuse is not going to help anybody out. And another person said school bulletin board's a safe space to dunk on the younger generation. I don't think this teacher was trying in any way, shape, or form to belittle these students. You know, I use my bulletin board every year for some kind of life lesson as well. All right. Life lessons are great to have on there because, like I said, that's something else that you need to teach in school other than the subject that you're brought in to teach. Same thing here. She said it should be only for student work by student design and or a reminder of learning. Well, I think that's exactly what she was doing with this bulletin board. She was teaching them something. It's a reminder of learning that you are responsible for your mistakes, you know? You are responsible for your actions, you know? And as far as the grades go, I'd tell my students the same saying all the time whenever they're like, why'd you give me that grade? Well, there was a teacher I had growing up that had a poster that really stuck with me. It said, I didn't give you any grade, you earned your grade. And I tell them that all the time. I don't treat anybody different in my class. Like I said, I love each and every one of them, but they have to earn the grade, you know? I'm not going to give anybody a cop out, and I'm not going to I'm not going to bring anybody down just because they act up more in class or anything. No, they get the grade that they earn because they put in the work. And I think that's exactly the point this teacher was trying to get across. Okay? So, don't hold grudges against teachers. Teachers are doing this because they care about the kids. She did not do this to belittle any kids or tell any kids that it's their fault, it's only on them, that their success isn't there yet. No. We are responsible to help them out, and that's what she's doing. She's putting that responsibility on herself to teach them these life lessons. Thanks for tuning in again this week. I'll see you guys again next week about this time with something new. All right? Thanks again, guys. Bye.